This is Support is Sexy, episode 262, with Fireball Network co-founder, Deena Baikowitz. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. It just would not be the same without you. And today we have a lot of fun. We have Deena Baikowitz, who is the co-founder and chief networking officer at Fireball Network. Now, by her title, well, first of all, her title of Fireball, love that. She tells us that story, but also her title of Chief Networking Officer. It's funny. It's not funny. It's divine that I just did an episode recently where I talked about getting out more, connecting more, networking in the way that works best for me and in the best spaces and trying to get around some different people, all of that great stuff. And fortunately, again, it's divine. Deena is the person to talk to about this. So she shares with us fantastic tips about networking, about working a room, and not networking, just going to an event, giving out your cards and that kind of thing. I think everyone that I've spoken to so far about networking gives us ideas of how to go even further than that or think bigger than that, what it truly means to make an authentic connection. So I know you're going to love this information from Deena. What Deena talks about in the episode is why you must diversify your network, key questions you should ask someone when building your network, how to make a cold introduction into a warm introduction, also how the buddy system helps you build your business, what it means to be a connector and why anyone can learn to be one. I used to think you just have to be a natural at that, but Deena says you can learn to be a connector. Also, she says don't waste time doing the things that you're not great at. Instead, focus on the spaces that allow you to be great. She also gives us a secret tip for how to make connections with people on LinkedIn. I will say LinkedIn is a platform. I certainly use it. I'm on it. I have my business on it. I'm connected with a lot of you on there. Thanks for connecting with me on LinkedIn. But it's not a platform that I feel like I am optimizing in the best way or the way that I could. So I was very interested in her tip. Let me know what you think about that. Also, when building your business, Deena says start with who is already in your network, the benefits of having a wing woman, and her top 5 tips for working the room. So again, I know you're going to love this. Lots of great tips and information. So without further ado, Deena Baikowitz. So Deena, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to talk to you, Fireball.
My pleasure.
Excellent. So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Well, I have to say, entrepreneurship is in my DNA. My great-grandmother was a business owner. My grandmother was a business owner. Most of the people in my family are business owners. And so I was born into it. You know, I come from these feisty career women in my family.
Was it a certain kind of business that was passed along, or just everyone was into different types of businesses?
Well, we're going back over 100 years now. So back in Hungary, where my great-grandmother and my grandmother are from, I believe she had a bakery at that point. And then in Canada, they had a range of businesses because as immigrants, they had to survive. You know, it wasn't the way we talk about entrepreneurship now, find your bliss, do what you love. It was feed your family and survive. And so they had a grocery store, a boarding house, retail store, factory over the years. And for me, the idea of running my own business or being in charge felt natural.
Now, did you grow up in Canada?
I did. I was born and raised in Montreal, which is a beautiful, multicultural, cosmopolitan, sexy city.
I believe I went to the museum there. There was a Miles Davis. Was it Miles Davis? Yes, it was Miles Davis. And this was a few years ago. And Montreal is beautiful.
Well, and we have the Jazz Festival.
Right.
It's one of the top jazz fests in the world. And Cirque du Soleil is from Montreal. I love
Which is one of your favorites, right?
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
it.
And it really, I had such a wonderful upbringing in the sense that we were exposed to all of this culture and music and dance. And I grew up, ballet, dance was my first love. Theater was my second love since I was a little kid. I just loved the arts. I'm a creative at heart. And that's part of my story, in fact.
Yeah, I was going to ask then, what was a young Deena like growing up in Montreal?
I was definitely a creative kid. I was an awkward kid. I did not have the self-confidence that I have now, partly because I'm so tiny. And, your listeners won't see this, but if you look me up anywhere and see any photo of me,
Petite.
I'm really, really short. Yes. But like most kids and adults, there's always something when you're growing up that makes you feel different or makes you feel awkward, that makes you feel insecure or less than. And for me, it was absolutely my height, getting picked on and bullied and quite frankly feeling unsafe at times because I was so tiny I couldn't defend myself. Eventually what happened was the place that I was confident was on stage. I loved being on stage. I loved performing. I loved the creativity and the imagination that it involved. And that was my happy place and my confident zone. And so I took that into the rest of my life because also being insecure and shy and lonely and miserable, I wasn't happy being miserable. I knew I had to do something about it. So I pushed through the fears and sometimes you just got to say, just go for it, get over it, and put yourself be brave, put yourself in a situation that may be scary and see what happens. And for me, that's been a lifelong theme. And it's, in fact, what led me to become a networker and a networking coach is because I knew what it was like to be alone and to feel isolated and to feel left out and insecure. And I never want anyone else to go through that. And so my entire career and my business is about bringing people together to build these supportive relationships and build their confidence.
And how tall are you?
4'6" 3/4.
4'6" tall. We won't say short. 4'6" tall. I love it. And a fireball.
And 3/4. Don't forget the 3/4.
You're so right, because I hate when people forget my 3/4. I say 5'5", but it's really probably 5'4" 3/4. I love it. So at what point did you discover then, or what age I should say, did you discover that being on stage was the thing that really gave you the outlet that you were looking for?
Oh, I was probably 2.5, 3 years old.
My mother. Goodness. I thought you were going to say high schoal.
No, my mom put me in ballet class. And one of her best friends growing up was a ballet dancer. And she had said to me, she always said when she had a daughter, she'd want her to dance because she thought it was so beautiful. And I love music and I love dance and I love movement and I was a natural and I was good at it. Also, because I'm so tiny, I was always in front. So I felt I had a responsibility, to myself. If you're in front, you better look good or people will make fun of you. You also have a responsibility to your fellow dancers, to the ensemble, to look good for everybody else who you're supporting. You're part of a team. And you have a responsibility to the audience to give them a show and to be your best. And so that really helped me build my confidence. And I think my first theater role, I might have been 5 or 6, and I played the witch in Sleeping Beauty. Mm-hmm. And playing a witch as a little kid gives you a lot of confidence.
You get to be
a nasty woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we had the term nasty woman, I'm out there yelling and, taking charge. And so that certainly helped. And I did some theater in high school. And then when I went to college, and I was so excited to join the drama club for the first time because we didn't have a drama club in our high school. And I get to college and there's no drama club. So what do? I started it. I became the founder of the drama club. I had a vice president or a co-president because I didn't, even back then, as much as I like being in charge and I like creating organizations and founding groups and bringing people together, I don't believe in doing it alone.
Right.
So I brought in somebody else, and he had access. He was a sort of an athletic guy. Mm-hmm. And so he brought in a whole other circle of people into our club, and that made it more diverse and more interesting. And that's also been a big theme of my career and my life, is taking chances, trying new things, being the organizer. If something doesn't exist, then you make it happen, and bringing different people together. You have to diversify yourself, I like to say. Mm-hmm. Diversify your network.
And this was at McGill University?
Well, no, actually, the drama club was at Vanier College. Quebec has a slightly different educational system than the rest of the country.
Okay.
So it was basically college 2 years before starting McGill. And in McGill, I did start in the theater program. Mm-hmm. And within the first semester, I started at Concordia in the theater program. And within one semester, realized that I didn't want to spend my college education doing something that had very little chance of becoming a real profession, in the sense that I knew that being an actress was so risky, and the reasons for being chosen or not being chosen and making it were so arbitrary, right? A lot of it is all based on looks, and you had to have a lot of, and I didn't have the confidence or I don't think I had that conviction that there's nothing else in the world I want to do but act. I knew there was other things I wanted to do, so I switched programs. After my first semester, went to McGill, still graduated in 3 years, had to negotiate my way into the school, which was another lesson. Yes, it was another lesson I learned, where they said, well, you turned us down, so you can't come back. You can't come. And I really had a long conversation with whoever was in charge of the program, and he goes, oh, yeah, I see your point. Okay, you're smart. Yeah, we should let you back into our school.
Now, how did you negotiate it? Did you say because of what you wanted to study, or you would be such a great addition to the student body? What was your negotiation tactic at that time?
That's a really good question. I'm going to say probably a combination of all of the above. I mean, throughout your life, right? You're interviewing, you're promoting yourself, you're selling, you're persuading, you're negotiating. And so letting someone else control you, your life, your reactions, your feelings is not very productive. And with the clients that I coach and the audiences that I speak to, a common and very recurring theme is where people feel that someone else is in charge of their destiny. Like, oh, if they don't like me, I'm not going to get the job. Or what if someone in the audience asks me a question and I don't know the answer? I'm going to look unprofessional and dumb. And I always say, no, you are in charge of your brand, right? So who you are, how you present yourself to the world, personally, professionally, on stage, behind closed doors, how you present yourself, that's in your control. And you have to decide what your story and your brand and your strengths are. And so for me, having had multiple careers and multiple jobs and interests, I choose to focus on the ones that matter to me as they relate to other people. So I love dancing. I do it for fun. I love drawing. I do it for fun. I can also use it in my business. But what matters most to me is how I impact other people and how I support and empower other professionals, and in particular, other women entrepreneurs, young women, established women. And that goes back to my social work degree, which I went back to school again and did a social work degree in addition to the theater degree, and I have business training. But really, for me, what I want to be known for is the networker, the connector, the person who coaches and empowers and inspires.
Now, what did you think that you were, or what had you planned at that time to become when you graduated from school? Were you thinking of going into social work, or did you always have this idea that you were going to become an entrepreneur and create the business that you have today?
Elayne, I was a liberal arts major. I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living.
Just like me. I was just curious if you were different than all the other liberal arts majors I know.
I mean, I still say I'm not sure what the next step will be in my career. So I started in theater and then switched out of theater, but did a liberal arts degree because I do believe in a well-rounded education and a well-rounded career experience, which is also why I say to people, diversify your experiences, open your eyes to new worlds, to new kinds of people. But I really did not know what I wanted to do. And out of college, I was in customer service and marketing for an engineering company. So that put me in the business world, which I was very comfortable in and enjoyed. And at a certain point, I think it was 3 or 4 years later, I decided, no, this isn't for me. I want to do something else. And what I really cared about goes back to helping people, I wanted to work with seniors. And I took a volunteer job at a nursing home that summer, which led to a paid job, consulting job, and they referred me to another consulting job. And so I ended up developing this career and this expertise in working with seniors, both healthy seniors and also within the Alzheimer's community. And I put together conferences and I ran training programs. And, looking back, I always had that skill set of creating educational programming, of creating training, of delivering a program that would inspire and make people change and make improvements. And so I got into the social work healthcare arena and worked in it for about 5 years, and then went back to school to get the social work degree to back up what I had already been doing. Because for myself personally, I'm a doer, I'm an activator, so I like to just jump in rather than learn it first and then try it. I like to try it first, and I'll learn what I need to along the way. So that was my social work career. And then at that point, I said, okay, I've been doing this for 7 years. It's difficult. Working in oncology and Alzheimer's and palliative care is very emotionally draining. And I cared about my work, and I also realized I needed a break and I needed to try something new. And I came to New York all by myself. I'd never been here before. I knew almost nobody in the city.
Really?
So it was a brand new, fresh start, and it was so exciting to me. It was the idea that how many millions and millions of people can I meet in this city? What are the experiences and the opportunities that I can find and enjoy? And
now, why New York? Was it because theater was there and that kind of thing, or was it just because it's New York?
It was a combination of factors. I really knew nothing about New York. I had been to, I'd say I'd never been. I'd been once when I was 13 for a long weekend. I don't really count that because all I remember is seeing a few shows and going to Bloomingdale's. At that time, I didn't experience New York the way I do now. It was much less safe back then, too. So you basically went from the hotel to the cab to the theater into a cab. And so somebody said to me, how would you like to work on Broadway in New York City? Hello, dream job. But all that statement is, oh yeah, I know a guy who's working in New York in theater. That was it. That was all I needed. Great. Give me his name, give me his phone number, and I will get in touch with him. And what I did then is exactly what I do now, what I tell my career coaching clients or anybody to do is you take that one opportunity and you build on it. So I had a conversation with him, which could be the equivalent of what we might call an information interview or doing research or networking. What's it like working in New York? What kind of jobs are available? Who do I need to meet with? What do I need to know? What advice can you give me? And these are all pieces of information and a process that I apply to almost anything in life, whether it's a new city, a new job, a new career, or even a new dance class, right? So he gave me some good advice, and from that I called the one or two people that he recommended I call, and I asked each one of them the same question. Who do I need to meet? What do I need to know? What advice can you give me? Who can you introduce me to? And I set up 12 interviews and came to New York for a long weekend. And the job, there was an actual marketing job I was interviewing for, and I got there and they said, oh, we don't have a job for you. And I said, well, I confirmed this 2 days ago because, I'm organized and a professional.
Right.
Well, sorry, we don't have the job, but there's 5 other people here we'd like you to meet. So I said, sure, right? 5 more people to meet. And one of them said, oh, you should go speak to Scott Walton at the Walton Group across the street. And I said, well, I already have an appointment with him in about 2 hours. And he ended up hiring me. That information interview turned into, you know what, I think there's a fit for you here.
Right. And I think a key, sorry to interrupt you, but I think one of the key things you said in the midst of all the questions that you make sure that you ask is asking people when you're at that stage, who can you introduce me to, or who do you think I should talk to, and that kind of thing. And most people, considering that you're a person who's about something, which you obviously are and so many of our listeners are, they will be okay with introducing you to someone or telling you someone to pursue in order to talk to. And people don't do that enough.
Yeah, exactly. And especially now with networking, and there's a way to do it and a way to make introductions. I love the story of how you and I connected, in fact, because I saw on Carrie Kirpin's Facebook page that she had done this podcast with you.
Right.
And so I reached out to you, and I use this process not just for myself, but for everybody else. If you're going to introduce yourself cold, still make it a warm introduction. Give a point of reference. How did I hear about you? Why am I reaching out? Why do I want to be a guest on your podcast? And what's in it for you, right? And I did my research. I looked at who your guests were, and I looked at your themes, and I thought, this is definitely somebody I want in my network. You are all about support is sexy.
Right.
It's in the title. It's about supporting other women, entrepreneurs, and you say you have creatives and founders. Your descriptions are perfect. It tells me exactly who you are and what you believe in, and that's also what I believe in. And your response was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So and the way I met Carrie, though, was also similar, where she and I did not know each other. I'd met her husband once. And so I saw her on Facebook, and she was speaking at a women's conference, and I reached out to her with a carefully crafted message. And it said, you don't know me, but we have these few people in common, and I met your husband once. He may or may not remember, but this is what happened. I took his picture, and so he gave me a copy of his book, which was very nice. I said, and the reason I'm reaching out to you is because I see that you're speaking at XYZ conference. I'm a speaker. Would you be willing to, spend 10 minutes on the phone with me and possibly make an introduction? I didn't just say, hey, could you introduce me to the conference organizers? If you don't know me, why would you do that? And she said, oh, I'm sure I can find 10 minutes. And that 10-minute phone call from that warm/cold Facebook outreach, that 10-minute phone call led to, I did a workshop at Likeable. She referred me to a few other people, including a client that became a client of mine. People who were at her company referred me to other organizations to speak at. I ended up being quoted as a source in articles. I brought people that I met. I gave them opportunities. So we developed, and I'm proud to say I'm going to be featured in Carrie's book, and did a podcast with her and on her video. And so that what I learned from that is take a chance, right? The worst that could have happened is she said no.
Or not respond. And people act like they'll die if that happens. But look at what you can get just from your example. The possibilities. That's what I always try to tell people. Focus on the possibilities. What if she says yes, or then interviews you and introduces you, just what happened with you is such a great example. Or she doesn't get back to you, or she says no, and you move on to the next person. The possibilities outweigh the other, I think, by so much.
Exactly. I love that, the possibilities. I have an expression, and I call these my sparks of inspiration. Mm-hmm. It goes with the Fireball brand, right? Shots of inspiration, sparks of inspiration. You never know how the next person you meet might change your life.
Wow. That's
heavy,
true.
Right?
Yeah. It's absolutely true. So you should never underestimate, I think, the people that you meet along the way.
Exactly. And also talk to strangers. When you tell little kids stranger danger, that's one thing. But for grown-ups, absolutely. If you're going to a networking event, there will be a lot of people there you don't know. There will be people there that you do know. Talk to the people you don't know. And I say, we're not in high school anymore. People are not going to pick on you and make fun of you and say, you're a loser. I don't want to talk to you. I mean, the worst that can happen is that they're in a conversation, so they're not ready for you to interrupt them, right? Mm-hmm. Or they're boring and you move on to the next person. But we are all grown-ups, and we are all here for different but equal goals and business needs. And the point of networking events is to connect with other people and start conversations and create those possibilities.
So now, speaking of that, tell us about the Fireball Network and what it's all about and how you work with your clients.
Okay, so Fireball Network, which I co-founded, and I also have business partners and business collaborators, because I truly believe no one should work alone. Mm-hmm. And especially for entrepreneurs, it can be lonely. So we have to have our support networks and people that we collaborate with and other experts and advisors and mastermind groups that we have to support us. What Fireball Network provides is workshops, training workshops on networking skills, presentation and public speaking skills. We also do private coaching, of course, and consulting around networking and press and public speaking, as well as marketing and branding. And I work with a wide range of clients, primarily professional services providers, So lawyers is a big client group of ours. The commercial real estate industry, architects, engineers, construction companies, also the women's networks, and women's networks within traditionally male-dominated industries are a really good fit for us, because obviously I'm involved with a lot of women's networks. And I also work with other creative coaches and consultants and entrepreneurs who are super smart and they're talented, but they have trouble selling themselves, as most people do. We all need that outside, that set of eyes, that outside observer to give us that focus, perhaps, or that guidance, as you do, right? You're about branding and storytelling and media.
Yes.
So even when I'm struggling with marketing myself, I mean, I love doing it. I love the promoting the company. But when there's something in particular, I'll go to my friends, to my support network, even to my clients and say, I created this workshop description. What do you think of it? And they'll say, oh, you left out this. Or, in my work with you, I found you've helped me the most in doing X, Y, Z. So you should put that in the workshop description.
Right. That feedback.
Mm-hmm. Always, always ask for help and support. You cannot go it alone. Nobody should work alone, because, and this is something I learned back in social work, which equally applies to the business world. Those who are the most isolated are the most at risk. So
very powerful. That applies to so much.
People think that if they put their head down and do their work and stay in their office,
right,
that's enough. The work will speak for itself. The work won't speak for itself. You have to speak for yourself. You also have to have other people to speak for you, which is why something like the buddy system, when you go to an event, or writing testimonials, or doing a podcast like this where we can prop each other up and talk about your business as well as my business, because you're providing this amazing platform, this podcast program, to other women.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things I saw, certainly from talking to you, but before I spoke to you, even just in research, this idea that you are clearly a natural connector. It seems it's who you are and definitely what you're all about. So it seems to come natural for you. But for people listening, if they feel like, whether it's because they think they're shy or they consider themselves shy or quiet or anything else or any other reason, is being a connector, a good connector, something that we can learn? And if so, what are the ways that we can go about learning it? What's the first step?
Oh, that's a great question, Elayne. The answer is yes. Everybody can be a connector. You don't have to be an extrovert to be a good networker. You don't have to be an extrovert to be a great entrepreneur. Connecting doesn't mean walking into a cocktail party with 500 people and introducing all of them to each other. I can do that. I've done it. It's my calling card. But that really isn't what the essence of connecting is. Introducing one person to another who there's some basis for connecting them, that there's some way they can help each other. Or even if, one person, I want to introduce Lisa to Mary because I think Lisa can really help Mary, and Mary may not be able to reciprocate right now, but there's something Mary can do for Lisa's cousin or for Joe. I really do believe in networking karma. And although we always say, it has to be two ways and you have to help someone if you're asking for help, it's not always going to be perfectly equal, and that's okay. As long as it's with authenticity and sincerity and you're not trying to take advantage of someone. Like I could say, I really need some advice from someone and they don't need any advice from me right now, but a week from now or a month from now or a year from now, there's someone in their network who's going to need my advice. And they know that they can call me at any time and I will reciprocate.
I feel like it's like sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like what you described is sort of this, I got a visual of sort of an open door policy as far as communication. So at the time someone might come in and need assistance, or you might go into their office or space or whatever that is, just as a comparison, and need assistance, but the door is open. You've opened the lines of communication.
That's a great analogy. You also made me think of, at retail stores, they have give a penny, take a penny. There's a little change box there.
Right.
Because pennies are just, nobody necessarily has the right amount of pennies on change. So it's like you put in 3 this time, and next time you need 1, you take 5, but it all works out in the end.
Yes.
Give a penny, take a penny. I like that. But yeah, the idea of connecting, anyone can do it. And especially for my introverted clients, and I work with a lot of introverts because they're smart people, yet they're shy. And I'm not going to try to force them to be extroverts. The engineers and the attorneys and the accountants and the architects, I tell them, if you can have lunch with one person a month or even one person a week, one-on-one, that can help you grow your business. That can give you support. That can help you with business leads or job leads. Can you handle that? And everyone says yes. They say, if I'm comfortable with a smaller group, with a one-on-one, then do what you're comfortable with. And that goes to another really, really important concept that I've learned over the years and that I try to tell my clients and my audiences is know your strengths and play to your strengths. Like, no one's going to put me on a basketball team, but I'd be a damn good cheerleader.
Right. Know your superpower.
Yeah, exactly. So I had one lawyer say to me, well, I don't really like public speaking, but I would do it. I would say, if you don't like it and you're not great at it, then don't do it. We'll find something else. If you're great at writing articles, yeah, I love writing articles. Great. Then you can write the articles because the guy who's the public speaker is happier on stage than he is sitting and writing the articles. So, I think the sports world understands putting people in the right positions. Sometimes in the professional world, we don't always get that. We try to force people into boxes that they don't belong in. And so that's a really important concept for me, is that people should figure out what they're great at and be sure to promote that and find opportunities to use it. And another example I give is, if you're getting involved in an industry, whether it's a new industry or one you've always been involved with, really get involved. Join the organizations. Get onto committees. Take leadership roles. You can't just, for example, say, I want to work with technology clients and then just market to tech companies. You have to join tech startup organizations and improve yourself and use your skills and show your value to that industry, to that community, and become part of that community.
Right. It's so great. I just did a podcast episode about this, for me, even looking at connecting more, getting out more and connecting with people one-on-one. I connect with tons of fantastic women like you all around the world, but there's also a lot of value with those in-person connections, whatever they look like. And I love that what you just shared in your previous example with the introverted people that you work with. It can look a lot of different ways. If you're not most comfortable on stage, that doesn't have to be the thing that you do to connect with people. And I wonder, do you think that sometimes we fall into sort of this trap of, well, this is what everyone else is doing, so that's what you're supposed to do?
Yes, Elayne, you're so right. That trap of this is what everyone else is doing. It doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. Do what's right for you. There might be a certain amount of things you have to do that are slightly uncomfortable, but picking the priority. So, for example, if someone says, well, I'm not on Facebook and I don't want to be on Facebook, but everyone's on Facebook. I'll say, well, wait a minute. If you're an attorney and you're doing corporate work, you're not finding your clients on Facebook. So no, you don't have to be on Facebook. You do have to be on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is something LinkedIn is the world's professional network. It's not perfect. They're constantly changing the design, and the user experience can always use some improvement. But I was one of the early adopters of LinkedIn, and I love it. It is something I tell all my clients, you've got to put the right brand. You've got to get your picture up there. Tell people who you are and connect. Now, you can't just rely on LinkedIn. You can't say, I went to an event, and so I sent them a LinkedIn connection, and now they're in my network. No. And I can give you another example of how to really use a tool like LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, but whatever works best for your industry. You know how it will say, so-and-so viewed your profile?
On LinkedIn.
Yeah, and some people think it's creepy. I don't think it's creepy. I want to know who's checking me out. It's a good thing, right? This is how we get business, is by promoting our services, by marketing ourselves. We want the views. We want people to see what we do. So somebody from career services in a college looked at my profile, and then I looked at hers, and it was very appealing to me that she had some personal aspects that I thought were kind of cool, and also her career path was really interesting. And so I sent her a message on LinkedIn. I saw that you viewed my profile, and I looked at yours, and I would love to talk to you. Here's why. We were on the phone for an hour and a half last week, right before the holiday. It was amazing.
And now you're authentically connected with her.
Exactly. And, at some point in the conversation, and because she's also in career services, so she's working with college students, as I do as well, and coaching them on networking and interview skills and career development. And I said, I would love to speak at one of your events, and if you're bringing in outside speakers to give a networking program. She says, I would love that. You are absolutely on our speakers list. And she asked me some questions, and we kept on talking, and then she sent me some resources, and I sent her some resources, and we're connected for real now.
Very good. That's an excellent tip. I never thought of that, looking at who's looking at you and then reaching out if it makes sense.
And it's not the first time I've done that. Someone posted an article that I thought was really interesting, and I reached out and said, you don't know me. Some other person in my network liked your article. That's the other thing. If I like an article that you read, I think my whole network sees that I liked it. So it's a cool way to get that exposure. Women in particular, we can't be shy to self-promote. We cannot be shy to step up. And I use theater analogies. Take the stage, step into your spotlight. You have to be the star of your own show. It doesn't mean that you have to be a complete narcissist and it's all about you. But for women, the problem is usually that they're too shy. Oh, my hair's not perfect. I don't know what to say. I'm not ready. You know what? No one's ever ready. Just do it.
Men never do that.
They don't worry about it.
No, they always do. There's been studies about it now, how men usually go into jobs and opportunities less than 50% ready, but they know that they'll make up the difference. They'll learn it along the way, whereas we're like, I have to be 120% ready.
Exactly. And that, unfortunately, partly goes to expectations in history where people will ask women for proof, whereas they'll just ask men for possibility. They show potential. Men can have potential. Women have to show proof. I was in a meeting with a group of potential clients, and one gentleman kept saying, well, which clients have you worked with? What companies? Can we get references? And I said, yes, I've worked with these clients and I can give you references, but I'm not going to name names right now because I have to check with my clients and I don't want 10 people calling them all at the same time for references, but it was interesting. But I do think women overall, we really need to stop being so super critical of ourselves and others and being shy. And I went through that myself. So that's why I feel that I can authentically preach and teach, and sometimes with a little tough love, force feed it to other people. I'm just, you got to push baby. The baby bird has to be pushed out of the nest to fly. Or as I like to say, nobody puts baby in a corner.
That's right.
Time to get on stage, kiddo. You're never going to be perfectly ready, but we're all going to be there cheering for you. Like, you need to have your cast and your crew and your fan club around you. And that's what networking and connecting and building really strong, authentic relationships is about, is having that support system for anything and everything that you need.
I want to ask you a question. You mentioned about a certain group of clients that you have among all of them, say professionals, for example, the lawyers and architects or different people like that. Did you go after that group, so to speak, or did you find eventually that those were the kinds of people or kinds of clients that were attracted to you? And I just asked for people who are creating their whatever kind of either consulting and that kind of business. How did it work for you?
It's a really good point, and it is important for others to look at that. I got into the commercial real estate industry because when I first came to New York, as I said, I don't know if I told you, my first job in New York was working in theater. Mm-hmm. I was marketing Broadway and off-Broadway shows. It was an amazing experience. And then eventually I moved on and I did other marketing consulting positions. And at some point, somebody that I met said to me, you should get into commercial real estate. You'd love it. I knew nothing about commercial real estate. So I said, that sounds like fun. I'll try it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's something new. And I met these amazing women. I went to an organization called Commercial Real Estate Women. And there were women in finance and banking and development, engineers and architect and construction managers, And I was so impressed with them and with their confidence and their power, their executive power and presence. And I said, yeah, this is a group. I find this really interesting. It's about developing the city. You're creating jobs. You're doing things that are environmentally good. And I found my niche in that industry was with my marketing and business development and promotional skills. And I would go to other events, and just any woman I would see, I would say to her, come to crew. I would poach women from other events and bring them to the women's group. And so I developed a reputation within that industry. And so once I landed jobs doing sales and marketing, working with architects and engineers. And so once I started my business, I already had that network. So I would say to people, start with who is already in your network. Start with the people you know who know you, because it's easier and it's a natural fit. And then as you go along, you expand. So there were lawyers in my network. So I started working with lawyers. And at one point, someone said to me, you should consider getting into the New York City Bar Association to speak there. And then someone else said, it's impossible. You've got to be in the business for 20 years if you're not a lawyer. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll put that on hold. But in the meantime, I got connected to other legal organizations like New York County Lawyers and Cardozo Law School. And I also brought lawyers into my team so we would present together. Because I realized I know lawyers up to a point, but there's always something to learn about somebody else. So if you have an expert in your team who's co-presenting with you, it makes the content stronger, it makes the results stronger, it makes a better experience for your clients and your audience. It's a better program. So eventually, I did get invited to speak at the New York City Bar Association several times, and then invited to speak for New Jersey women lawyers, and then the New Jersey State Bar annual convention and meeting. I was one of the few non-lawyers to speak there. So I didn't start out saying I want to work with lawyers, but along the way, staying open to that opportunity and seeing that lawyers were these smart, successful, and yet somewhat shy women in particular that I could help and that I liked working with, we developed that part of the business. And I met my own lawyer at a networking event. And we met because she was trying on shoes. The networking event was actually at a clothing store. And I said, those are really cute too.
Those are so fun.
They're really cute, but the beige is boring. Go for the mango.
Right.
And she ended up buying the mango shoes, and we started talking. And as she told me about her career path and the different types of law she practiced, I said, well, that's unusual to practice all of these. She says, yeah, I get bored easily. I said, so do I. And in my head, I thought, I want you to be my lawyer.
And you ended up working with her.
But she's also my friend and my attorney. I mean, in my world, there's almost no boundaries. My clients become my friends. My friends become my clients. And for my birthday party, I have a big networking event. I tell people, bring your business cards. I expect you to be networking at my birthday party. That's the best. One of the best gifts you can bring me is knowing that you're getting something out of it. And I do bring people together a lot. And what I hear the most, and I'm proud of, is when they say, you know what, Deena, we meet the most amazing people at your events. Because that's the value.
Right, exactly, the value. I love that. Now tell us about your top 5 tips for working the room.
Oh, top 5. Well, be yourself, first of all. Don't pretend to be somebody you're not. By being yourself, also knowing who you are and knowing your strengths, which means partly having I don't want to say the elevator pitch as much as I do work with clients on their pitch. Your pitch isn't static. So it's knowing how to answer the question, tell me about yourself. So if somebody asked me to tell them my top strengths, I would say it's connecting, it's marketing, it's coming up with creative ideas, and it's inspiring people. Right? Having stories that you can tell is a really important tip for networking. And those are stories that you can work on and always have in your back pocket. Like you can always have that set of tools that you can use. Certainly being open-minded. Being open-minded is critical for networking events. Don't be judgmental.
Right.
Don't walk in there thinking, oh, this person's boring and this one's not going to want to talk to me and there's nobody here that's useful for me. That's just the wrong attitude. So be open-minded. Also be focused, though, because admittedly we are all very busy and we have goals. I mean, I love to walk into a room and just chat with people endlessly, but if it's a networking event, I'm there for a reason. I'm there to find leads and clients and speaking opportunities and connect with people who I can help and who can help me. So being focused when you go to an event is really important. Picking the right events. People don't think of that. They'll just say, oh, well, this is a tech event and it's free, so I'll go to it. But if your clients,
don't go to everything.
Yeah, if your clients aren't at the free events, your clients are CEOs, they're not going to be there, then you need to, I say also invest. Invest in yourself. Take courses, go to a workshop, hire a coach, hire a media consultant. Do what it takes to really establish yourself as a professional and get the tools that you need. And also, most importantly, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Have a sense of humor. Everyone is generally going through the same thoughts of, uh-oh, this is going to be boring, or I'm not going to meet anybody I know, or I'm going to make a fool of myself, or this is going to be useless, or I don't know how to sell. Like, we all have the same fears and insecurities at a certain point. So just treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated. It really is the golden rule, and it goes back to that networking karma.
How do you think that we can best create, we talked about authentic connections, but how to do that without making people feel like you're, quote unquote, working them? So that it's really, sometimes I think we, as you said, you help train people on the best ways to, open the lines of communication with someone or to get new clients and that kind of thing. And maybe in a networking environment, people sort of expect that to some extent. But just for people who are listening who really may struggle with even the idea of doing it because they're worried that, oh, this person is going to know I'm just out to get something from them. Is that even something we should worry about? And if so, what are the ways to make it truly be an authentic connection?
That's a very valid point. It is, I don't know if it's something we should or should not worry about, but it is something we worry about. And it is a valid concern. Being direct, and I look at every opportunity as a networking opportunity. It doesn't mean every opportunity is a chance to meet a client. It could just mean it's a chance to meet somebody and open up your horizons and open up your viewpoint. Within a business setting, whether it's LinkedIn, an actual event, being direct is important. So, for example, when I reached out to you, I could have said, hey, I just want to connect with you for networking purposes. That's really vague, and I said it with that tone of voice for a reason.
Right.
Because when someone reaches out and say, I just want to connect with you for networking because I think you'd be a good person to meet, that's not enough. I said to you specifically, I'd like to be considered to come on your podcast to be a guest. And here, otherwise, I'm not going to waste your time or mine and just be very vague and, hey, you have to guess why I'm reaching out.
Right.
You want to give someone the chance to say yes, no, or maybe, or to ask a follow-up question. So if you are at an event and someone asks you, what do you do? Well, I'm a coach and a consultant and a speaker, and I am looking for clients who I can help do X, Y, Z. There's a difference between shoving your pitch down someone's throat or telling them about the work that you do. And this, I think this still goes back to women feeling that we shouldn't be selling ourselves, but we should. We just need to learn how to do it in a way that doesn't feel sleazy.
Right.
And sometimes it's just practicing saying to somebody, I am here to find clients, to find leads, to build new relationships that will lead to business. Here's what I do. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Some people are really, really good at doing that very directly, and I admire and respect them. Wouldn't it be great if we all went around the room and said, okay, here's who I am, here's my business, here's who I need to meet, and here's how I can help other people. And you know what? We do that at a lot of events. The right events, with whether it's the organizer or the format or, in my workshops, for example, the exercises I bring in, gives people that chance to say, here's what I need, and here's how I can help.
That's so interesting. It's I'm going to New York. Oh, I have to let you know when I'm there.
Oh my gosh, we have to get together.
Yeah, we're connecting. Yeah, but I'll have to let you know next month. I'm in Atlanta right now, but I'll be back up there for a little while. But in any case, I was thinking about doing an event around Support is Sexy. People have been asking for it, which is a great thing. And I said, what if I did an event where it was about you're going up to people and asking, what can I support you with? And then they have to ask you the same, sort of just, I think, like you said, creating that space, even if the event isn't necessarily about that, like what I'm thinking, but creating that space like you do at your birthday parties. This is what this space is about. Everyone has the freedom to do it. Let's get busy.
I love it. Let's do it. Fantastic. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And you know what? We did something similar it was a workshop I did with someone else. She invited me to join her on stage at the New Jersey Women Business Leaders Forum. Talk about being generous, right? A lot of people, you get invited to be a keynote speaker to run a workshop. You're not going to bring someone else with you. And she said, you know what? I'd like to bring a colleague of mine. Because a few weeks earlier, she said to me, how can I help you? And I said, well, one of my goals is to be a speaker at a national or, a large women's conference. And as soon as she was offered, she remembered that's what I had asked her for. So she invited me up with her. And we had a lot of fun doing it because we created this, and we're different, right? You have two very different personalities with different experiences on stage. It was fun. It was funny. It was also very educational and substantive. And one of the things we made a point of saying was that anything you need, because it was a group of women leaders, anything you need, you can access in this room. You just have to speak up and let people know. And so we asked the room, this is your chance. Speak up, tell us who you are, and tell us what you need. And one woman stood up and she said, I'm an intellectual property attorney and I'm looking for clients. Well, I love intellectual property and I'm very interested in intellectual property law because it's so creative. Mm-hmm. And so I went to talk to her afterwards, and she's the woman who invited me to speak at the New Jersey State Bar annual convention and meeting, because she stood up and told the room what she needed. And I always give her such credit for that.
Amazing. And it's funny, I think I don't know if the episode even aired yet, but someone I just interviewed, Tara Winston, she has a consulting business, and she's talked about, we just don't realize how many things we leave on the table, how many opportunities, how many possibilities, as I always say, just because we didn't ask. And I think you've been really driving home that point of the importance of asking in whatever way that, feels right for you, but that is powerful and clear and lets people know this is what I'm looking to accomplish or give or whatever it is. But ask it seems a really important theme the past few days. So now I'm thinking about it a lot more. Am I really asking for what I want?
Exactly. And here's an interesting twist that I've realized is that as women, right, we're hesitant to ask for what we want. We don't like to ask for favors. We don't like to ask for advice as much. We don't put it out there that way. However, we are amazing at helping each other. If anyone asks you for help that a friend, even not even a close friend, you're going to help them. As women, we are nurturers. That is our biology. That is our nature. I mean, I'm a social worker, so that is certainly part of my nature as well. Is part of my career. But in general, women, we want to help each other. So we're doing ourselves a real disservice by not asking, because this is something we should be leveraging as a community of entrepreneurs and businesswomen to help each other make those asks and not feel bad about it, and not feel embarrassed or shy. And ironically, I used to be a bit shy to ask for what I needed because I'm the coach, I'm the expert. People come to me for advice. So I have to have all the answers. And then I had to give myself my own advice and say, you don't have all the answers. And you're not the only expert. And when you need something, you need to ask for help. Right? Like, it's always that physician heal thyself. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I started asking for help, amazing things happened.
Because you opened up to it.
Yeah. I created the Red Hot Career Club, in fact, another offshoot of Fireball Network, or part of our career coaching services, because instead of just coaching a few women individually, I brought them all together in the room. And immediately what happened was everyone was giving each other leads and introductions.
What is the Red Hot Career Club? Now you have to tell us about that.
Yes, well, the Red Hot Career Club, a group of people coming together. That club particularly is for women who are looking for new jobs or, career transitions and supporting each other. And it takes really a special blend. It is, in fact, a type of workshop where you're putting people in the room together and having them help each other. It's what I used to do when I facilitated support groups, right? You could look at it as a mastermind group or a brainstorming group, but instead of just telling people, okay, go on LinkedIn and go set up your meetings and do your search for your new job or for your referrals or even your clients, get them in the room, have everybody share with each other. And it's a small group, 4 or 5 people, 6 at the most. Share with each other who you are and what you need and how you can help each other, and then get specific. So, for example, if I had said, there's this woman, Elayne Fluker, and I don't know her, but I'd really love to be on her podcast. And someone in my group would say, I know Elayne, or she's connected to somebody I know. I'm going to make an introduction on your behalf.
That has literally happened to people before.
Right?
One of my close girlfriends, like, I was in Baltimore. She's from New York. I was in Baltimore, and this woman said she would love to be on your... And that's exactly how it happened. That's
networking. That's women supporting each other. That's asking and giving. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm so passionate, as you can tell by my energy. I'm so passionate about women in particular, but also just young professionals. I think also need this help and this guidance of how to ask, what to ask for, and to do it together. That you're not going to land a great job or a promotion or a speaking opportunity by sitting at your desk behind your computer sending emails and resumes and LinkedIn connections. You're going to get those opportunities and you're going to build on those possibilities by really connecting with people for real, in real life. And learning those skills is what I teach.
What would you say are some of the biggest networking mistakes or even greatest misconceptions that we have about networking that you've seen?
Yeah, there's some. I started a list. I'm going to probably publish a series of the worst networking mistakes.
That would be a good LinkedIn article.
Yeah, multiple articles.
Series, right.
And there's some doozies, without naming names, of course. So I could give you an example, actually, somebody who's pretty much the exact opposite of you, because this person sent an email around at the last minute on a holiday weekend saying, are you available to be interviewed for a show on the holiday? And I'm purposely leaving out a lot of details.
Right.
There was no mention of the time frame, what the show was about, what the topics were, if I needed to be on site or by phone. And so I replied and said, first I wanted to clarify whether they actually meant that specific date or the following week. And the response was very short. And then when I followed up with the questions of what are the topics, and I looked online, I researched, I couldn't find anything. I got no response. And then 4 days later, got another email from the same person, but to me and a few other people saying, hey, would love to have you on my show. Here's the information. So being respectful, the point of it is you have to be respectful of people. And just focusing on yourself is a big networking mistake. When someone says, hey, I think you can really help me, so can I meet with you? That's not a good way to approach it. The picking your brain for free is really disrespectful. People are not going to go to a lawyer or an architect or a doctor, for that matter, and say, hey, could I get a free appointment? No. So why would you go to a coach or a consultant and say, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee and get your advice? You know what? I actually charge more than $1.25 for my services. So I can offer you a free phone consultation for 20 minutes, which is what I offer everybody. And then you sign up for a package.
Right.
But other networking mistakes also would be abusing relationships. So, and for example, if I said, oh, I know so-and-so, and they told me to call you, but that person really never it's hard to use without names, but somebody did that where
they used a name, but that person wasn't aware of it.
Used my name and said that I said, they said, oh, Deena said you have a job for me.
Oh.
I never said. They hounded them. They called them every day, 3 times a day. They emailed them. And finally the person got back to me and said, what? Like, I know you better than this. What did you tell this person? I said that you would be helpful because you were looking for a job until recently. So you might have some advice about because they're in the same industry, what jobs are out there, what's going on.
Which is very different from I said you'd have a job for this person.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, thank you for letting me know, because I'm never, ever going to refer this woman to anyone again. Well, ironically, the person who did me the courtesy of telling me what was going on asked me for a favor at some point, and I gave her a couple of hours of my time for free because it seemed worthy at the time, worthwhile. And then, I don't know, 6 weeks, 6 months, a year later, whatever it was, I asked her for a favor for about an hour of her time. I'm really too busy. I can't be bothered with that, was her response. So another networking mistake, right? Like, to truly not give back is wrong. I think trying to hard sell people is another big networking mistake. So if I'm walking around the room, oh, hi, Elayne, yeah, I do coaching services. Here's my card. Do you need coaching services? No. Okay, I'm going to go find the next person to talk.
Right.
Like, we've all met those people. Or while they're shaking your hand, they're looking at
exactly for the next person.
Sure. Yeah, like, I'm sure people are going to look over my shoulder, but look at my eyes, buddy. Oh, come on. I think that. Also, maybe not as severe, not as poorly intentioned. People who are well-intentioned will go to events and then they'll just stick with the person they know because they're too shy to take that risk. And then you're wasting your own time.
Do you think that, speaking of that, that's one of the things that I mentioned in the episode I talked about recently about connecting. Sometimes let me know what you think, but sometimes I think it's better not to go with anyone that you know. There's a part of it you feel safer having someone there around the room, but if you just stick, as you said, together, you're just talking to each other the whole time.
Yeah. I tell people it's fine to go with a buddy to just get the evening or the lunch and whatever to kick it off, but you have to split up. You can't be sitting together. And when I see 3 or 4 people from the same company sitting together, or 10 people from the same company sitting together at a table, I usually go up to them and say, well, what I'm thinking in my head is your company is wasting their money buying you all tickets for you to sit together. And then my next thought is, your company should spend that money to hire me to teach you how to do this properly and not send you all to the same event,
And sit at the same table, right?
Yeah. But that actually, because I did that, and I look at it, it's my business and it's a way to show people what I do, but it's also a chance to help. So I did see these 4 young women sitting together at an event, and 3 of them were from the same firm. And so I said to them in a nice way, I realized it because I found out it was their first event there. I said, this is a really friendly crowd. I'll be happy to introduce you around. You really want to split up. 3 of them sat there. The 3 from the same firm, they never moved. 1 woman took my advice. She walked around the room. She met all kinds of people. She sent me the nicest email the next day thanking me and asking me not to pick my brain. But she said, I would just love to learn more about you and about your company because I think it's so fascinating what you do. And I'd love to buy you a drink over a glass of wine if you have time. I mean, she was totally respectful. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. That sounds like she found this really cool wine bar. So I said, let's try. Like, if you're going to make the plans, then find the place because I don't want to have to start worrying about where to go.
Right.
We ended that 1 glass of wine turned into a 3-hour dinner. And we became good friends. And she's the one who, in fact, introduced me to New York County Lawyers Association, which led to New York City Bar, which led to New Jersey State. So that's how to handle meeting people and taking advantage of opportunities and following up. Follow-up is another really critical element of networking. But to your point, because I know we digressed a little bit, but that's sort of what networking is. It's circuitous. It's not linear.
Right.
It's okay to bring someone as long as you don't stick with them the whole night. If it's going to cramp your style or the person you're with is going to tag along and not go do their own thing, then yes, you're right. Don't bring them. There is one situation where it's even more helpful to bring somebody, and that's where you bring a client. So it makes you look good and it's of value. If you bring your client to an event, I like to do that as a way to thank my clients, to take them to events and help them work the room. I also offer wing woman services. But what happens usually is I can introduce my client and say, this is, for example, I'll say, or this is my friend, Elayne Fluker, and she runs this podcast and she has fantastic services and you should really reach out to her for XYZ. And then you can say, oh, Deena's a networking. So having someone else promote you, it's like walking around with your manager or your agent or your publicist selling you instead of you selling yourself. Because if I walk into a room and I say, I'm a fabulous networking coach, I sound like an idiot, right? I do. But when I go with a client and they say, this is Deena, she's my networking guru, then it's like if I said it, right, I would never call myself a guru. But when a client says it, that's the recommendation. That's the in-person testimonial. And it carries a lot of weight. You're supporting each other and introducing each other rather than just selling yourself. And again, for women, because we're not as comfortable selling ourselves, but we're really great at nurturing others, it's a wonderful way to walk around a room.
That's right. So what would you say entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Wow. Working with all women's groups is a really hard way to find a date.
Yes. Amen.
Every so often I say, that's it, I'm quitting all my women's groups. And they say, why? I said, because this is no place to meet a guy.
Right.
So that is something, but all kidding aside, as a woman, I think it has taught me to be stronger, be more aggressive, be more assertive, learn from the guys, learn from the women. I think it's also taught me to be less judgmental of other women. And also more selective and critical. I tend to always look for the best in people. It's just who I am. But that has, unfortunately, I've had some bad experiences where people have taken advantage of me, or it's just been, a horrible situation. Like I trusted somebody who I shouldn't have trusted. Being able to learn from your mistakes, not beat yourself up, not be too self-critical. Being an entrepreneur, you really have to learn that yourself, and you have to learn it as quickly as possible and not make the same mistakes twice. Being an entrepreneur has also taught me to make sure that I have a support network around me and that I have people I can go to and that I can learn from. And it's taught me to take control of my career, of my business, of my professional path. So if I want to go to a conference, and I've gone to entrepreneur conferences and writing retreats, and it's taught me to invest in myself.
Mm-hmm. Now, what does your support network look like?
Fabulous women, fabulous fireballs, some of whom are entrepreneurs, some of whom are in the corporate world. Overall, it's just a really amazing group of people who I trust, who are smart, who are also career-oriented and ambitious, and at different stages. Some of my best advisors are in their 20s. Mm-hmm. And I love that fresh perspective, and they're very direct and honest with me. But I do say, I meet my friends through work overall, because work could be a networking event. Work could be a drawing class. Work could be a cocktail party. Without naming names, I just say my support network is just a group of fabulous fireballs.
Excellent. I love it. So in closing, Deena, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Wow, that's a tough question. I don't think I can just thank one person, but I can single out my very favorite boss, because she gave me a department to run, to build, to create, and she gave me all the support I needed and all the freedom that I wanted. And she's the woman who named me Fireball, because she recommended me for another consulting job. And I walked into the gentleman's office and he said, I just received the most original job recommendation ever. And he read me the email and it said, she's a little fireball of energy, hire her.
I love it. That's like, it made me think of Devil Wears Prada. Was it Devil Wears Prada? Where
Yes.
She gave the recommendation of, you must hire her.
Yes, that was it. Although we didn't have a contentious relationship. I mean,
Right.
her name's Pam Georges, and we're still in touch. I got together with her recently, and, she really was still is this exceptional role model of a professional woman. And as a boss, I still remember the day I went to interview with her. I still remember when I gave notice to go back to school. And I learned so much in that job.
And the fact that name stuck with you in so many ways, and it's the name of your network, the Fireball Network.
I don't even think I knew the word before that. I'll be honest, I don't know if I'd ever heard the term fireball before. And when I told her the story, and her husband turns to her and says, you always did love extravagant words.
Perfect. She got it just right.
She gave me my brand. I have to say, Pam Georges gave me my brand.
Excellent. So, Deena, tell us now how we can support you. Of course, I'll have a link to your website, but tell everyone where they can find you, social media, and anything else you want us to know about.
So the website is fireballnetwork.com. And we have our services listed there, the coaching, the workshop. I have a couple of workshops coming up, in fact, services for lawyers, consulting programs. I have a blog, press requests, speaking gigs. I'm on, so myself personally and Fireball Network, we're both on Twitter, Fireball Network, Fireball Deena, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram personally. It's not for the company, because I find a lot of, and Twitter as well, people want to follow people. Unless you're a brand like an international global retail brand, we're not following the brand as much as we are the people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so connect with me. I love to connect.
Excellent. Deena, thank you so much. I learned so much, honestly, talking to you, especially because I'm in this connection mode. So it was great to hear your advice and tips there. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Elayne. I'm so glad you said yes, and that we're going to have a chance to meet in person.
Yes, in New York. We'll have to go to that great wine bar or somewhere that you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
Talk to strangers. You never know how the next person you meet can change your life.
I feel like you need that on a t-shirt.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. I just might do that. You never know how the next person you meet might change your life. www.fireballnetwork.com.
Exactly. Right. There you go. Boom. Excellent.
Thank you.
I love it. Deena, hold on. What's that?
Well, I could give you another piece of advice, which is don't wait for an invitation.
Meaning to an event or to ask for what you want?
Anything. Like, don't wait for something to come to you. And it's really about taking that initiative, right? There was no drama club. I wanted to join the drama club, so I started it. I have a story about my birthday that's on my blog, and because I spent one of my birthdays completely alone, and it was very depressing, and the next morning I woke up and said, this isn't happening again, and I started planning my own birthday parties, and I think it's 10 or 11 years later, my parties have become this big tradition where I bring people together. So, you know what? We are all the same at heart. Everyone has the same fears and insecurities, and we all have something amazing to offer. We really are here for each other. So let's help each other. And like the title of your podcast, support is sexy.
Yes, that's right. So you have to send me the link for that blog. I'll make sure I link to it so people can see that story about your birthday.
Okay. Sure.
Excellent. All right, Deena, hold on just a second. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Deena. For more from her and to get in touch with her, you can go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to the search icon at the top, and just type in Deena, Deena, and her show notes page will pop up with all of the info there, links, resources, all the good stuff, and again, ways to get in touch with her and find out more about the Fireball Network. And whether you're a new listener or you've been here for a while, as I always say, I truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I don't take it for granted. What I would love if you could support me in doing is subscribe to the podcast. This way, we make sure that you don't miss any one of these lovely episodes that I put out 5 days a week. I want to make sure that you don't miss a thing. We have some great interviews that we've done in the past, so make sure you catch up, and great interviews coming up in the future. I'm really excited about it. So I want to make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss a thing, and this helps continue to grow the podcast so more and more people will learn about it. So subscribe so you automatically get the downloads, and if you love the podcast, please leave a review. I always say a 5-star review is fantastic, but any feedback, I truly appreciate it. Okay, so thank you so much again for listening. Happy to have you here. Continue to have a great week. And until next time, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.